Beautiful South Florida gives way to a looming sunset and an intermediate track ready for action and some cash down the road for the field. As we welcome you to the virtual homestead of Miami Speedway and the home of round 8 in the Season 3 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, the Dash for Cash qualifier right here on MaxSpeedTV. So happy to have you along for our coverage. We're up here in the broadcast booth atop Homestead of Miami Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and we are ready for a fantastic evening of 4-Wide Cup action. It's the 8th round in the regular season for Season 3, and it's also a very special round. It's going to be the qualifier for the Dash for Cash, top 5 with the drivers that are entered into that sort of foundation where they give money out later in the season. They will qualify for it, and of course they will run for some cash prizes later on down the running. We had a race earlier last night in the ARCA series. It was a wild one, it was a chaotic one, but we're ready to bring the cup field here for some great action as well. So much to look forward to as currently qualifying looms to a close. It's about 7.5 minutes out. Drivers are currently putting their fastest 2 up on the board. See exactly where they're going to be on the grid, but there are a lot of drivers to look forward to. And of course, Homestead of Miami Speedway, a very beautiful venue located all the way in South Florida. As we'll take a look overhead is where we are in the virtual world via our friends over at Google Earth. You can take a look down to Homestead of Miami Speedway, the 1.5 mile beast of a track located at Homestead, Florida. Was built all the way in 1995 as a recovery effort for the city of Homestead and Miami-Dade County in the wake of the devastating effects that hit South Florida in 1992 with Hurricane Andrew. It's a 1.5 mile track with 21 to 22 degrees of banking in either corner. It is progressive as well, and Homestead's been known ever since its revamp back in 2003 to be a multi-groove hub, especially with these NASCAR Cup Series machines, the Xfinity Series, and of course the Truck Series machines as well. It's a beautiful track, known for championship racing up until 2019, but has made a new home now as a playoff race for 2022 and as a regular season thriller this year in the NASCAR Cup Series, and of course all the other stock car series as well. We've got a lot to look forward to, and of course that comes with the drivers that are locked in for the Dash for Cash qualifier. That's right, that means drivers that will qualify tonight will run for the Dash for Cash finale in a couple of weeks' time when we go over to the Kansas Speedway for round number 13 over in late October, October 27th, and we'll see exactly which driver is able to get the best of them all and be able to get a little incentive out of all of it as well. You'll see Jesse Priest, Tony Kimmett, Tyler Murray, Brandon Gillis, Kyle Benson, Austin Reedy, Craig Lonslar among the many that are part of this entire Dash for Cash field. We'll go over it as we move forward throughout tonight's race, but there is one special person that we have not mentioned all night long, at least on the broadcast side of things, that we're used to seeing around this time, and that is our very own booth member, Francisco Bacalhau, who will be joining us on the track tonight. He'll be swapping the headset in the booth for the steering wheel on the racetrack tonight. We'll bring Francisco Bacalhau. He will be our in-race reporter when we move forward throughout this entirety of this race. Francisco, I know this has been an announcement for a while. You talked to the guys at 4-Wide and you said, hey, I love this track. This is a track that I'm used to seeing in real life. This is a track that I love so much in the sim. I want to run this one with you guys. I want to see how competitive I am with these guys, and of course just running at a great track like this. Walk us through obviously the decision and obviously the expectations that are going in for tonight's race.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here out on the racetrack. I just got out of my car right now after setting a qualifying lap, and I was really stoked about getting this opportunity. I talked with Tyler close to the start of the season. I said, hey, I saw Homestead on the schedule. You know, if it's possible, I want to run this race. And it was in baby steps early on, but it wasn't until about a month and a half ago that it really got some traction. And fortunately, we all came to an agreement. I'm going to be running here tonight. Pretty sure this is going to be the only one I run all season, just Homestead. You know this, Kenneth, our home racetrack. We've been here many times. We've met here for the first time, and it's just a fun track to drive on the sim. It's probably the track with my most experience and most laps I've laid down here, and what a better place to make a one-off race, right?
Well, it definitely is if it's going to be Homestead out of all places. But not only is this your first round with the 4-Wide Racing guys, it is your first time sort of in this kind of competition level. You've driven a couple of leagues at this track. You've driven a couple of leagues in I guess, the wider scale of iRacing in total. And you've obviously driven against a lot of great drivers. You've driven a lot around this track. So what do you see working for you at this track tonight in this sort of circumstance with these drivers that you've seen from the broadcast booth race up until this point?
Well, fortunately, I've also been able to race with some of them over at my series, and I was able to sort of learn what they do, what they don't do. Just learn those little things that you get with when you race with the same people. And a lot of these I haven't raced with before, so it's going to be learning their little tells or whatever. But I've raced here before in different leagues, as you mentioned, and in my time in racing here, one of the main things that's going to be a key factor is clean air. Clean air is very important. If you can keep it, you can really make it work. And we also have a 5 tire set limit, so we can't just come in every single time we want like they were able to last night. We have to make a smart choice as far as when we want to come in for our tires. So that's going to be an interesting part of the race for me as far as strategy is concerned. No crew chief for me here tonight, just going to be on it myself. Just hoping to see how I can best use those sets and see if I can play the cat and mouse game right. I mean, obviously, I want this race to go well for me. That's the inner racer part of me. But from the general perspective, still being your mate up there in the booth, I really hope that this race does go well for not just myself, but for everyone that's here tonight, for you in the booth covering this one. I know some guys are out here for the Dash for Cash qualifier. I actually don't know who's eligible and who isn't, so I have no clue who I'm going to be racing with if there's somebody trying to qualify in for that position or not. But I'm just going for the win here tonight, hoping to have a solid run. And, hopefully, knock on wood, I have a wooden desk, so I'm going to knock on it right now, right there. And I hope at the end of the night, I'm going to be talking with you. I feel we're going to be talking a couple times throughout the race under some caution breaks, but definitely want to be one of those 3 at the end of the race that gets to talk to you.
Well, of course, we'll be dialing you up over the course of tonight's race as our in-race supporter. But Francisco, we'll let you go. We'll let you get set for the grid here from Homestead Miami Speedway, and we wish you the best of luck in tonight's endeavor for Four Wide Racing Cup for Cup action.
Appreciate it very much, Kenneth, and good luck on the broadcast end.
As Francisco Bacquiao, our in-race supporter, we'll be talking to him over the course of tonight's race. We'll see if we can get some opportunities to sliver it in through some of the yellow flags that we may have in tonight's race. Before we get started, before we get lined up on the grid, let's take a little bit of a look at our season schedule here for the Four Wide Racing Cup Series. We've already been to the first 7 rounds. Of course, Darlington was the only race that did not happen due to iRacing updates, so they moved that race over to what is now the Bristol slot on December 1st for the round of 10 in the playoffs. There you see September 22nd, Homestead Miami Speedway, the Dash for Cash qualifier. Still going to happen, but we're going to have a couple of races before we inevitably decide the Dash for Cash finale winner. We'll have Michigan next week, Talladega, the Super Speedway, one of our first Super Speedway races apart from Daytona. Earlier in the year, we'll have our road course at the Charlotte Roval, our second road course race of the season. We'll have the Charlotte Oval make an appearance. We'll have Kansas become the Dash for Cash final, and then we'll head for Richmond, the short track in the Commonwealth, Rockingham in North Carolina, which is going to pose a very interesting challenge for the Cup drivers, and of course comes back to Daytona full circle on November 17th to crown a regular season champion and continue on where we kick off the round of 10 at Darlington and the entirety of the season at Atlanta on December 29th, where we will crown a Four Wide Racing Cup Series champion for Season 3. Well, right now, drivers are lined up on the grid, so that means it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting tonight from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. On pole, our in-race supporter, Francisco Bacquiao, a 32.501 will land him on the front row, leading us to the green flag, with rookie sensation Colin Forster for Stock Motorsports lining up on his outside in row number 1. Lance Hill, the 34, will line up on third, a striking young driver, the Ford Mustang, with AJ Green to his outside in row number 2. You'll find Ken MacArthur in the 97, ARCA Daytona winner. He'll line at the edge of the top 5 on the grid, with Cody Kinsey doubled up to his outside. 75, Nicholas Suzuki will roll off 7th, a short track king in 4-wide Racing Cup Series history, and Tyler Murray, league owner, will start the 8 car from PA. Daytona winner Tyler Werner will roll off from 9th, with 10th belonging to the 13 of Craig Launslager. We'll look through the drivers further outside the top 10. Jesse Prees in the 00 will roll off from 11th, with Austin Bloom beginning this race back in P number 12 in the 27. CJ Munier, Brandon T. Banks will line up the guys all the way back through P14 in row number 7. Before you'll find Michael Woolley, Kyle Benson back to row number 8. That's a P16. Kyle Benson going to have a lot of work to do after the drop of the green flag tonight. Christopher Bishop will roll off 17th. 18th will belong to Michael Newbraw in the 56. You'll find the drivers lined up just inside of the top 20. That'll be Ricky Rosner in the 43, Eric Schaefer in the 22. Rosner, the last driver on the grid to take time. Everybody else did not take time, so they will start as follows. Tony Kivet will be 21st. Pete Bruni will be back to 22nd. It'll be Brandon Gillis, Cody Ivey back to P24. That is your entire grid here for the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. We'll take a look overhead at the weather. We had a beautiful 79-degree evening over at Homestead last night for the ARCA race. It's 2 degrees colder, 77, but still rather warm here in South Florida. It is about the end of summer, coming to the start of fall, and it is still rather warm here in virtual Florida and in real Florida. Track temperature cool, as a matter of fact, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. So should see some more grip, and that number is probably going to continue to decrease as the temperatures go down. The grip levels are going to go up as the night continues to fall. We got a sort of semi-strong wind to the southeast at about 7 miles per hour. It's a partly cloudy evening here in Sunset, Florida, so should be a beautiful day to go racing in Sim. It'll be Francisco Bacalhau and Colin Forster, the 30 and the 99, that'll bring us to the green flag here from Homestead. Had a wild one for the ARCA race last night. We are ready to get things started as they will go one more pace lap, and we'll go for the lights off. We'll have everybody continue to double up, and of course we'll have the 30 and the 99 line up on the front row. Let's take a moment to look at our race analysis before we go green. There's a little bit of info there about Homestead Miami Speedway. Our elevation about 3 feet, not too high up off the ground here from Homestead. Our time of day, you can see right there, just shy of 7 o'clock here in the sim, so we'll have the sun fall down as a result, and some nice race settings to look after. 50 miles per hour, your speed limit doesn't look too daunting, but when you're going from about 170 miles per hour in the corner all the way to 50 miles per hour down to pit road, especially under green flag circumstances, could pose a very large challenge. There are no stages, so we'll go green if we end up there all the way to lap number 134. We have a total of 5 tire sets, and the fuel window looks at about 40 to 45 laps. That is, of course, if we get green flag runs. And as of the ARCA race last night, the lesson learned was that anything can happen. Track set, you can find things that are very unexpected. We saw lots of cautions in that race where we expected a lot of green flag runs and a lot of strategy to take over that event. And now off turn 4, we're looming to a brand new race. We'll see exactly what happens. Pace car will roll off this time by, it'll be Bacalhau and Forster, your top 2 up at the front of this field. As we get things started here for the 4-wide Racing Cup Series, we are green from Homestead Miami Speedway. Field sails off into turn 1 after the completion of lap 1. Continues to be Bacalhau at the head of the field while they battle for second behind. That's the 99 of Forster, the 34 of Lance Hill. Hill already being aggressive at the drop of the green flag. He's going to tuck back in, not going to have enough space to make a move to turn 3. He's going to stay in third as AJ Green, Cody Kinsey occupy the last drivers through the top 5. Everybody squirming to the inside of the racetrack. Some trying to explore already to the outside wall, but early in this race, probably going to look to save tires more than anything. Forster, already with a couple of wins this season, has got some at the 1.5 miles, some at the very big tracks, and He's definitely been on a hot streak, and he's at a very high average finish and just continues to try and put it on the field as he gets another run off the banking there. Off turn 2, he's going to be able to get by Lance Hill. Continues everybody still single file, no big movements throughout the field. Some side-by-side action, as you see right here, buried deep within the top 10. Not much to really consider as of lap 3. You're right on board with last season's Championship 4 competitor. That's Kyle Benson in the 10, rocking a very Scott Riggs look here from Homestead, a Valvoline color, a throwback paint scheme. As you can see, another throwback paint scheme, or a pair of throwback paint schemes in front of him. The Valvoline machine of Izzuti, that's Ken MacArthur in sort of the Days of Thunder colors that we're accustomed to seeing as NASCAR fans in the 97 up ahead. This is Benson right now in P10. Nice small movement there out of the 75, got very loose there, 3 wide of the front straightaway. Already, these are crucial passes for the start of this race. What you're going to see here with the high downforce package and the lower horsepower figures here for the NASCAR Cup Series machines, you're going to see a lot of dirty air take into effect, especially as the tires start to wear off and the grip levels start to fade. Of course, I mentioned grip levels rising as the sun will fall. That will happen, but the tire degradation is definitely still going to happen. So that means even if you do have more grip, probably would be better off if it was, let's say, compared to a very hot and humid track temp, probably in the triple digits in the middle of the day. It'll be a lot more bearable here into the sunset, but obviously still going to be a big factor into how you're going to drive your race car and how these drivers are going to manage the tight conditions or the loose conditions that'll happen over the course of tonight's race. Saw a lot of ARCA drivers struggle with that. Cars being very loose at the exit of the corners, especially rolling up the hill. But so far, seems to be no issues as of lap 6, and they'll just kind of spread themselves a little bit as they again go side by side for second. That's Lance Hill again. Switcheroo this time. Gonna look to the outside to turn 1. And the Subway Ford Mustang, shades of the Kevin Harvick paint scheme he ran over at Bristol just not too long ago, and a thrilling finish there. He'll be able to move up to second. Right on board there with Lance Hill, continues to try and spread himself away from the competition. Everybody usually using that inside groove, but some drivers already looking up to the outside wall to make amends for possible lost ground all the way at the white line. But the gap continues to remain at least a second between your top 4. It's 0.8 actually between your top 4 specifically, so you can throw a blanket over these guys. They're starting to gap themselves amongst the field. It's already 1.5 seconds from the leader back to 5th place Cody Kinsey. You can see Tyler Murray right behind him. He's about 1.7 seconds, just a couple of tenths off of the 93's pace right now. That's the exit right now of your top 5. And of course, you look to MacArthur, and then this battle right here, we mentioned just a little bit ago, Benson, who was trying to fight against MacArthur, now fighting against Vizzuti and Lautenschlager, and possible chances for the 27 and the 00 to make their way through the field. Jesse Priest and Austin Bloom, respectively, those two drivers trying to make the top of the field work. It's pretty much 1 versus 5 all the way at the bottom of the racetrack here for Benson. He's going to be able to keep himself collected here, filling that space between the 13 and the 75, but as of right now, continues to be tightening grouping between these guys as they'll rip the top of 3 and 4. You see a bit of battling right behind them. That's Michael Woolley in the 69. Did not have the best night here from Homestead in the ARCA race just last night, and neither did Jesse Priest. A lot of them involved in incidents later in the race, but seems to be doing well within the top 15 right now. And already you can see pretty much the contrast between the start of the ARCA race and the start of the Cup Series race tonight. We saw in the ARCA race, the caution did not take long to wave. It took about half a lap out of turn 2. The first caution waved on lap number 1. First caution is yet to wave, and we're already 10 laps into this race, so definitely a lot cleaner of a start out of these guys, having more handle over this NASCAR Cup Series machine, having a better feel for the higher downforces, opposed to the very slick ARCA car that we had last night. A lot of drivers struggled with the car pretty much stepping out of them, going up the hill, and especially moving through the seams that we made a talking point about, Francisco and I in the booth last night, in terms of the way you can drift up the track. You're trying to make momentum out of the long corners, but if you start hitting the seams, which are those lines that are noticeable in the middle of the track, you could end up in trouble. And for Banks right there, almost got him into some deep trouble into the inside wall. We saw right there in the middle of our screens, trying to make the middle work on the racetrack, hit the seam, got very loose. He's now losing a bunch of ground here in P14. Eric Schaefer, Jesse Prees are now going to start to be on the attack mode. Collected Colin Forrester here, moving to the front of this field. You can pretty much see the gap that he has right now to Lance Hill continues to be rather close. They continue to keep Francisco in their crosshairs. They're not necessarily a blow away from your race leader. He kind of holds a half a second gap over Hill and most of the other guys behind. However, does not seem to be pulling away by too much of a margin. We saw these two guys right here, Hill and Forrester, put on an absolute show last night in the ARCA race. Of course, none of them were able to win. It was Jake Royal that took the race win last night after they burned up all three of the green, white, checkered attempts and ended up finishing under the yellow flag and gave Royal the race win. But you definitely couldn't count out guys like Lance Hill, guys like Colin Forrester. They were strong assets there in the race last night. Could have easily made themselves a candidate for the race win. Unfortunately, things did not go their way, with Hill getting caught up in some incidents and some yellows later on in the race, with Colin Forrester being stuck behind with a mishap down pit road and some strategy that ultimately did not work out for him. But these two already putting it up to the top three as we watch three wide for about the top 10 behind them. That's Woolley on the inside. That was Benson in the middle. And that was Ken MacArthur on the top. Is there again three wide? Almost contact between two cars there. That was the 75 and the 27 that almost met together. They're able to keep it clean for the moment. Bloom, though, is going to lose all the position and move back to P12 as a result. Look at Austin Bloom. He's got a lot of cars in tow, and Bloom, a driver that could have easily won a handful of races throughout this season, was pretty close to a win earlier this season, but has not been able to get it done. One of the stock motorsports machines. And we talked earlier in the show about Colin Forrester, his handful of wins so far this season, a total of 3 that it came in the first 3 races of the campaign. Bloom has gotten very close as a teammate, but has not been able to strike victory lane just yet. But especially at these tracks, he seems to pose himself very, very strong as a race car driver to run for the win. You see him running right outside of Nicholas Suzuki, who we know is a kind of a short track specialist. He hasn't been able to get a win this season either, but last season we saw shines of him at the short tracks. We saw him win over at New Hampshire. We saw him win at Martinsville. Definitely posed a great season. A lot of these guys in sort of a contrast of themselves altogether as more battles continue to loom around P7 on back. This is where you're going to find the most action on the racetrack. Pretty much through the top 2 and top 5, everybody's kind of just hanging around. No big movements there. It doesn't seem to be anything dramatic apart from maybe this pass here for 5th. That happened a little bit earlier ago. Tyler Murray, he got by Cody Kinsey for P5. So Igor Murray is going to enter into this top 5 for the first time tonight. But pretty much there's not much action throughout most of the field apart from the guys 7th on back. We'll look back to the top 15. Maybe some couple cars here that we can look after. You saw Jesse Prees kind of lost some ground here, but he's lost a couple of positions ever since. That's CJ Munier up at the top of the racetrack. Tyler Warner, there's Tony Kibbett. You see Warner there in the Napa machine all the way down low. That's Eric Schaefer as he gets way loose, stuck to the outside wall there, and almost lost the race car, almost struck it to the inside, but was able to keep it straight, was able to keep it out of harm's way, and some possible scratches on the right side of the car. Not sure if that's going to affect him too much aerodynamically, but he's going to be able to continue, and doesn't seem to be too much damage on the 22 Camaro. See there the different lines they continue to use. A lot of these drivers are either stifled between the top side of the racetrack and or maybe the middle or the bottom. We're seeing a lot of the leaders take forward to the bottom side of the racetrack, but many of the drivers even further back are looking for that high side. It's been a sort of a high line rubble. There's an update a while back here at the Homestead Miami Speedway in one of the previous seasons that gave more grip up to the top, so you can definitely make way for a faster line up there as top 3 now going to go up there as well, 2.2 seconds behind your leader, but it's now made that top line more viable. You can get a good run down the hill and down the progressive banking, so that's why you're seeing a lot of drivers stick up top. If this was before the update, would have seen a lot of drivers stuck all the way down to that first seam. They really couldn't go in any other line to gain momentum or to defend against position. So far, though, it is a successful race so far. In the first 20 for Francisco Bacquiao, continues to lead this race, and he's opened the gap to a solid 2.3 seconds over the rest of this field. And of course, talking to him over the course of the past couple of weeks in the booth and his thoughts about this race, he was very excited for this one. We talked to him obviously before the race. He already expressed his excitement of tonight's race and how he hoped he was going to do well and how he hoped to talk to us at the end of the night. And so far, he continues to show the dominance right now ever since the drop. He's the pole sitter so far. He's led every lap since the drop of the green flag, as there was a slight battle for third. That was AJ Green in the 48 looking underneath Colin Forrester. Did not have any success down at the bottom of the track, so they're going to swivel once again. Forrester is able to defend in position. And for now, there's only pretty much 2-car battles, maybe some 3, but not many really to note on the racetrack. There was a move right there for P6. You just saw the Gatorade machine within the next 20 or so laps that drivers are going. Welcome back to coverage of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series from the homestead of Miami Speedway. You're watching nice battles from the top 10. This is Nicholas Suzuki back in P12. Austin Bloom behind him. Brandon Banks, Jesse Priest, Ken MacArthur. And a nice fight as more drivers have also joined the fray. He's been up the road. That's Cody Kinsey, who's also a heap of ground after starting within the top 5 tonight. Now pretty much leading this large group of cars that have since continued to put themselves together. It's been a nice battle, though, that you guys missed for about P5 and about P3 up to the racetrack. We saw Michael Woolley move up to P2. He's had a fast race car over the long run. Colin Forrester and AJ Green continue to occupy positions, though, within the top 5 there, 3rd and 4th. But Woolley has kind of broken in that sandwich that occurred right there just a couple of laps ago. There you see the sort of the tight-knit group between the 99 and the 48 is actually AJ Green's going to dip to the inside, be a little aggressive here on the back straightaway, and dive into turn 3. Almost going to have a bit of a pinch, but Forrester's at the end going to be able to hold on for a moment, going to slide at the track, and the 48's going to directly go back underneath. So still side by side, and that could open the door here for the drivers like Tyler Murray and Lance Hill to open the door here. Hill has fallen back to 6th ever since this last stint. However, we are approaching the method for green flag pit stop. So around lap 40, we'll see the entire pit road open, and we'll see in about 5 laps time whether drivers are going to go down pit road, in what order, and when the leader will decide to strike. Francisco has led every single lap since the start. He's led the opening 40. And he continues to hold solid gap. He's opened it to 4.3 seconds, and that's pretty much where it's maintained ever since the start. He is really going to absolutely dive to the center of the corner and try to get some sort of a slider out of turn 4. Not going to have it right now. Going to give all the advantage back. Drivers working their way through the field so far. This is again top 15. A lot of these drivers have pitted around 5 laps to go. CJ Munier continuously in a battle with guys like Tony Kibbett, AJ Green. Of course, the drivers like Kyle Benson. All these guys continue to fight for handfuls of positions across this race. They have not let up so far, and we did see your race leader Francisco Bacchiao pit about 5 laps ago, so it seems as though everybody should be good on the strategy as of right now. So everybody already cleared through the first pit stop, and for at least, I'd say, the next 80 or so laps, we'll see another pit stop happen at least halfway. Drivers will try to cut it around, I'd say, lap 90 to 100. We should see sort of that spread between drivers for going down pit road. That will be indeed the last pit stop, unless we have yellow flags come out in the middle of it all. That obviously could interrupt the flow that these drivers are already creating here on the rhythm so far. We had not too many changes for position throughout the top 5. Michael Woolley, who pitted from second, continues to remain in second. He's put on a good gap from the rest of the field, but he is currently being chased down by the likes of Colin Forrester, who's moved up into third. He stayed in fourth. Lance Hill now currently in fourth. He's the driver that moved up from P6 on that recent stint, so he's made up some ground ever since losing it in the first opening half of this race. Tyler Murray, your league owner, currently worked up through the top 5 right now. It's Craig Longslugger behind him. We'll find 7th in Cody Kinsey, 8th to Austin Bloom, 9th to Jesse Prees. Nice pickup from him so far at the start of this race. It's Nicholas Suzuki, who currently wounds up the current top 10. So everybody remains spread out and continues to remain a sort of a slow burner here from Homestead. You see Francisco getting around the lap car. That's Christopher Bishop in the 42. We had a full 27 car field last night for the ARCA race. It's a full 24 here tonight for the Cup Series action. And so far, it has been a very clean one after the messages sent last night for the league after a rough one that ended under green-white checkered scenarios. These guys definitely working a nicer race tonight, cleaner race tonight. The racing has been fantastic so far, as always. If you're looking for drivers right now that are currently locked in within your Dash for Cash, so the current highest driver right now on the racetrack sits. The current highest driver is the 8th of Tyler Murray, so he's in P5. He's the current highest driver running so far in the Dash for Cash out of everybody so far in this field. And then you'll look back to Craig Longslugger. He's behind him. He's also in Dash for Cash position. Same deal with Cody Kinsey. And then you have to look back a little bit further to Jesse Prees, where you'll find the other driver also in the Dash for Cash qualifier. So he's back in P number 9. Sort of a spread between most of the field. Nicholas Suzuki will be right behind him. He's one of the next drivers that's also a part of the Dash for Cash qualifier. So these guys are looking for the qualification, that little spot to go into Kansas and try to gain some cash prizes of their own. It's been a good night for a lot of the Dash for Cash runners, and they stay on pace like they are so far. And they could definitely be in the route. We'll get official word when the race is over. But as you're seeing, lap traffic taking a part into this race so far. We're seeing Francisco already get around some of the lap traffic. We've already put about more than 17 cars, or actually just a handful, probably about 6 or 7 cars under the lead lap. We have a total of 17 on the lead lap. So Francisco now working through his paces and definitely having a controllable night here from Homestead. It's kind of the motive here for Francisco that he's trying to save tires for a lot, trying to be fast, and he's definitely tried to keep the rubber underneath him. He's definitely done a good job of doing just that. He's been able to run well. He's been able to maintain himself as a force, and see him right there, just continues to run well over the course of this run. It's about 10 laps on this run so far, so drivers are experiencing some of the effects of tire wear, although not probably to the biggest extent. Not too many battles on the racetrack. Here's Austin Bloom trying to catch up on Cody Kinsey in the 93. Nice battle between these two as Kinsey lost a bit of position, gained some off of the recent pit stop, so he was able to get some sort of a positive effect out of this, but you see right there already losing the spot right there, losing a little bit of space. The 27 of Bloom, and now Bloom's going to work to the inside. A chance at taking this position away. He's not going to be able to make the move complete at a turn 4. He's going to look back to turn 2, try the high side all the way at the outside, a safer barrier. Try to see if he can build some momentum through there. He's also trying to get away from the dirty air that Cody Kinsey currently puts out on the racetrack. With these packages, you're going to see a lot of dirty air being affected due to that very large spoiler at the rear of the race car, and that does in turn make the car a lot tighter over the run when you're behind the guy on the racetrack. When you're out in clean air, the car does feel looser. It definitely feels better on the control side of things, but as soon as you're behind a race car driver on the racetrack, All of a sudden, the car starts to tighten up. The aero wash gets to the car, and the car just does not have sort of the front bite that it would usually have in clean air. And it can merely give you a lot of understeer, send you up the track, and definitely puts you into the wall. But what's curious here is that a lot of these drivers, although they're struggling with tight conditions behind the wheel, they are looking all the way to the high side. And with the proximity dynamics that we have here on iRacing, it does allow the car to get a little bit freer as they get closer to the wall, because the side force just kind of sucks the car in and makes the car a little bit looser as a result. So maybe it could be that Kinsey, these guys with tighter setups on the race cars, are definitely looking to stay up near the outside wall and be able to gain more momentum as a result. A little bit of 3-wide action as Jesse Prees has just struck the outside wall. He's going to be able to keep it straight for now. He's got a lot of damage on the right side of his Chevrolet Camaro, and he smacked it on the back straightaway. You can see the crinkle right there on the right front. He's able to continue, did lose a lot of that ground, and will now just have to at least suffer through 11th at the moment. You'll take a look at the replay. This is coming out of turn 2. I was already under fire, and I already actually struck the wall in the middle of the corner, gave way for 3 wide, and I think right here, a car either just upset itself or maybe had some contact almost there with Vizuzzi, got a little bit of a pinch, and then Preece has a moment with the outside wall. He's able to keep it collected, so not too big of an issue there for the driver of the 00, but it is something to worry about, and it's cost him a lot of time comparative to the drivers that currently sit right in front of him. There's a nice group of cars, though, right behind here. That's AJ Green leading this fray. That's Kyle Benson trying to work under Tony Kivet. These guys have been racing with each other all night long through the top 15. It has not been surprising to see these guys connected together compared to what we saw to start. There's on board with Kyle Benson. He's working the inside of the 7. Kivet, though, holding strong. He's able to dive in a lot deeper in the corner than Benson can. Benson staying a little more conservative on his end. He's still within your top 10 as everybody still continues to remain separated. And by this time, you're going to see a lot of drivers develop their rhythms, and they probably already did to start this race. We had a first long run. First round of green flag pit stops is underway, and right now having their second round to go for at least the next 20 and go to at least lap number 80 before they will decide to go down pit road for the second time and quite possibly the final time in tonight's coverage. And it's just a matter of keeping the wheels straight, getting the muscle memory connected, and already heading on your way. Welcome back to coverage of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. You're looking at your current race leader by 4 seconds flat. Francisco Bacquiao in the 30 machine, your pole sitter, has been dominating since the drop of the green flag. Michael Woolley currently holds in second. You can see the gap right there. As a working lap traffic, Colin Forrester, the last driver at the last step of the podium in P3. It's Lance Hill and Tyler Murray, your current top 5. It's been a very long race at Homestead without any yellow flags. pretty much a contrast from what we saw at the ARCA race, where we had a yellow to start the race on lap 1. We have yet to see the field stopped by the pace car in their tracks. Ever since we've gone 72 laps green, it's so far been looking to be a flag-to-flag affair here from South Florida. We've already had our first round of green flag pit stops, and we're looking around 18 laps away from our second round of green flag pit stops as well. So we should expect to see drivers come down pit road sooner than later. See a couple of battles to the top 10. There's been some of the same contenders in each and every battle we've looked at tonight, mostly between the top 5. It's been stagnant, but throughout the top 10, it has been flourishing. You see Austin Bloom and Nicholas Suzuki, they continue to go side by side. We've seen them tag along with Cody Kinsey, Tony Kibbett, likes of Kyle Benson, Championship 4 competitor from last season. All these guys have been pretty much ruthless in taking position whenever they can. And it has been a great one to see racing-wise between these guys, especially over the long runs and how contentious they're able to stay between each other right now. Between everybody, though, in the top 5, it has maintained a decent gap. You can see right there from about 1st to 5th, it's a coverage of 14.4 seconds. So it is a long way back to Tyler Murray. That is a result of the current pitch strategy that pretty much made everybody all separated. But it's only about 3.7 seconds once you kind of make the distinction between Francisco on the racetrack and Michael Woolley, as Woolley aimed to run down Bacalhau in the final laps before we hit pit road the first time. And the second time around, he's looking to repeat that as Francisco has worked through lap traffic. Michael Woolley has definitely done the same. And Woolley, not a winner in 4-wide racing, at least within recent memory, has not been able to get a win in the Cup Series, has not been able to get one in the ARCA Series either this season. So far, he's been kind of floating around. He's had some good races, no doubt. Had some nice top 10s. He's had some good runs that we've seen, most notably at many tracks, but he just has not been able to put a full race together and have the luck needed to win a race. He's had a lot of skill. He just has not been finding the positions, and of course, unlucky events such as crashes and all that also have cursed the driver, the 69, but definitely looks like the games on his machine have been working well for him. He continues to run second and actually continues to put pace up with their race leader. He's actually setting faster laps than your race leader so far. He's about 2/10 quicker than your current race leader. Last lap, it was a 34.597 for Woolley. It's a comparison to 34.7 by the race leader. It looks to be maybe some tire saving out of the driver in the top spot, but more equalized this time around. Woolley definitely having the pace to keep up with the driver who has been dominating the first 77 laps of this race, and especially the first half so far. Well, as we're about halfway through this race, we'll take a look at your current race summary here on MaxSpeedTV. We've got a total of 58 laps to go before this one is all said and done. We've so far had no cautions for no caution laps, and that is a wild difference from ARCA last night, where we had double-digit yellows. This one, straight 0, zil, nilch, no cautions at all. We've had green flag racing ever since. We've only had 2 lead changes, and that was through the pit road cycle. So it was not necessarily on-track passes. It's been your race leader that has kept the lead, and it really hasn't been anything different. You see the 97 of Ken MacArthur strike the outside wall just a little bit. Not going to affect him too heavily, but just it may scratch it off just a tiny bit and maybe hurt some of that momentum. You're right on board here with the 75 Nicholas Suzuki. This is a nice view, battling with a lot of drivers behind him. Take a look at the focus inside of the cockpit there from his Ford Mustang. Got a lot of drivers around him. Look how close it gets between him and Tony Kibbett, who has just lost a lot of ground at the bottom of the racetrack. And Suzuki continues to ride the wall, with Austin Bloom trying to make his way through the middle of the sandwich. Also maybe gain some positions throughout. This is the latter half of the top 10, so this is for considerable points here. But at this point, these guys just continue to run side by side, continue to remain equal with each other. Doesn't look like anybody's really faster than the other. They haven't sprung out like a lot of other drivers in groups have before. We usually see groups of 3, groups of 4, but then they all start to spread themselves out as the tires wear. But for these guys, it's kind of like the tire wears are pretty much non-existent. These guys are racing like if it's the final lap on the racetrack. These guys have been aggressive. They have been clean, though. So, of course, continuing to make great racing happen here at Homestead with the Cup Series cars, as Kibbett will be able to hold control. He's trying to chase right now the driver, the 13, in Craig Launslager, who is in turn trying to catch the 88 of Brandon T. Banks up ahead the road, the Geico Chevrolet. And of course, as mentioned, our top 5 in Murray, Lance Hill, Colin Forrester, Michael Woolley, and then, of course, your current race leader. Not too much movement. We have seen 17 cars on the lead lap the last time we mentioned it, but it's gone up too. So we've had a total of 15 cars right now on the lead lap. This is the current last driver on the lead lap, almost about looking to get lapped. This is the 00 of Jesse Prees, who had a moment in the outside wall earlier tonight. He lost a lot of ground, and since the first round of green flag pit stops, he has not been able to quite recover in the right way. He's just been having a troublesome night so far here from virtual South Florida. There's again the side-by-side action. That's the 27 of Austin Bloom, the outside of Kyle Benson. These stock motorsports guys, they're all coming back together. We see the 48, AJ Green. We saw him between the top 3 fighting with the likes of Hill and Forster, but as though throughout this run, throughout the second run specifically, he's lost a lot of ground. Pit stop didn't necessarily help him too much, and now he's with the stock motorsports teammate in Austin Bloom, as Bloom gets very close to the outside wall. Could have almost struck it there in the middle of 1 and 2. He's going to lose the spot to Kyle Benson as a result. And for now, Bloom will maintain himself just outside, looking in from your current top 10 position. It's still a sort of a quintet, as we'd call it. Sort of a quartet now, as the other 2 have fallen away. But they're all single file. Nobody has made the moves just yet. There's Eric Schaefer up atop the racetrack. That's another lapped car right now, and that'll give Woolley some space down low to make himself worthy. He has kept it within 3.7 seconds, so no doubt he's got some speed, and it is putting relatively close lap times with your leader. Actually, that time just a tad bit faster. It's mostly even at a 34.7, but if you look at the hundreds, it's a 7.20 for Michael Woolley versus a 7.32 for Bacalhau in the 30s. So Woolley has been trying to make up the speed, but here at Homestead, obviously, if you're going to set the same times as the leader, you're only going to keep the gap consistent. You're only going to keep it at the same level. You're not necessarily going to be way faster. He's going to have to set faster laps in order to gain a lot of time, and also considering the fact that we are entering our second round of green flag pit stops, this could possibly open the door for Michael Woolley if he can keep himself close, and that's a big if. He can keep himself close. If he continues to fall out of the way, that'll only make things worse for him, and the distance covered is just going to be too grand for any pit stops to make any dramatic changes on position, unless Bacalhau has a speeding penalty, or unless he makes any mistakes that could keep him out of contention for the current race lead. Woolley has been able to keep second through pit stop strategy, so the distance has been able to help in his case, but it probably will help Bacalhau in his case as the race leader. When he decides to pit, he pitted a lot later, a couple laps later than most of the field did in that first round. So I think if there's any expectation for the leader, it's going to be that he's going to pit later than everybody else. There's going to be some drivers that maybe take the risk to pit first, but if you're going to remain comfortable, you're going to want to pit a little bit later in the run, and that I think is probably this segment, this second round of green flag pit stops. The first one obviously is just to get it out of the way. You go for the first 40 to 45 laps, and then you end up down pit road because you have to. Obviously, there's no call that you're going to make it to the end of the race, and that's why these guys are going to have to pit an extra time on track. Third stop is probably going to be improbable if it's going to come down to lap-wise, because we're only about 134 laps in, and that's probably going to not give way for 3 stops unless you pit very early in this race. But if it's going to be anywhere for a marketable standpoint, it's going to be around 90 to 95. That's going to be the closest factor to go down pit road, make this stop, and then be good to the end of the race. So I talked about the pit window, 40 to 45 laps. So if you can at least get within that range, then you should be good all the way to the very end, and you won't really have to deal with any pit stop blunders or any sort of situations of fuel running out on the track, and drivers limping to pit road, drivers trying to limp all across the track for any sort of advantage. And so top 2 still about 4 seconds. It's 10 seconds there. There's third place Colin Forster, 99. He's kept himself there as well. Lance Hill just a couple of seconds behind in P4. And then there's Tyler Murray there getting around the lap car. That is the 81 of Cody Ivey here tonight. And in many cases, could open the door as well for new race winners this season. We saw Colin Forster, your winner the first 3 times around, but then we have had sort of a share of different winners since we got off of that, as here comes the 48. He's going to bite down on lap 89 down pit road. An interesting call, and it's going to be the same thing for Colin Forster. He's also going to pit as well, so an interesting call by the Stock Motorsports teammates to go earlier than everybody else. Nobody else had decided to bite it as well. They're about 44 to 45 laps on the stint. So we are getting rather close, but many of the drivers have been extending. There's Lance Hill making his trip down pit road for the second time tonight. We'll come down for service. Easy one there as Michael Woolley, I believe, has also hit pit road. There he is, Chevrolet Camaro hitting pit road. A couple other drivers striking pit road as well. There's Craig Lautenslager in the mix. I believe that's CJ Munier in the 25. That's Austin Bloom in the turn 3. Washes up the track just a bit, hits the middle, tries to put the throttle in. And the car just steps out on him, tried to save it, almost about did, but then overcorrected, slammed the outside safer barrier. And almost about there, brought out our first yellow, but everybody's able to scramble through. No other damage. He did not spin. So Banks does manage to escape on this end, but almost barely as Cody Ivy gets loose there and almost brought out a caution on his own accord. We're having drivers loose on the racetrack. They have not been able to hold their race cars together so far. It's been a tough condition with those cold shoes. Again, these guys are trying to keep up as now the yellow flag comes out as there was an attempted pass for P2. And it's Christopher Bishop in the 42 machine around with heavy damage to the rear end. And after 96 laps, our first caution weighs here from Homestead. There's the race leader as Bishop comes down, trying to limp it all the way, possibly to pit road to get that damage fixed. These guys are allowed a fast repair. So Bishop is probably going to waste this one on his entrance to the pits as we'll take a replay. Very slow on the front straightaway, and that was simply put because of a loose car off turn 4. This is similar to what we saw with Brandon Banks a little earlier when we struck the outside wall. Kind of hit the same thing, but he was trying to put in the gas, lost it, overcorrected, slams the outside wall here. And that's some of the leaders going by, and then right there squares it into the inside wall. Barney has no decision other than to display the yellow. We'll take a look here. Just loses the car here on cold tires. We've seen it as a condition between many others, including Banks, and now including Bishop here. Right there, loses the car, tries to keep it straight, about saves it, but it's right here. Tries to put the throttle in, loses it again, and then tries to save it. Goes down a gear, doesn't help, and then there goes most of the leaders by. Slams square into the inside wall. And then just tries to limp it back. As he will come back around. But this should give the option for drivers to go down pit road. And Bacquiao is going to be one of the first ones. Leaders coming down. And we have the top two staying out. That's Kinsey and Vizzuti. Your top two staying out on the racetrack. How about the opportunity to give our in-race supporter a first interview tonight after 96 laps of green flag action? We'll talk to the driver of the 30, so far the most dominant driver tonight in Francisco Bacquiao. We'll bring Francisco over into the broadcast booth, our in-race supporter for tonight. Francisco, I think it's been a statement of dominance here since the drop of the green flag. You've been dominating every single lap. You just got off of this segment of green flag pit stops. It looked as though this race is going to continue to stay green, but it's the first yellow. How do you figure this is going to play out for you?
Man, I was really hoping for that run there to stay green flag. I was definitely in the best position. Had about a almost 8 second lead on those guys back there for second place, and it was looking like it was definitely going to be in my advantage. But that caution did come out, and I decided to come down pit road. Tires mean a lot here with the green flag runs. Fortunately, we were able to save a couple of sets there that we might be able to use in these closing laps. But best case scenario for us is that this run does go green. It seems that we'll line up on the front row for this restart, so hopefully we can try and use this to our advantage.
Well, so far I think from the first 2 rounds of green flag pit stops, it's shown that you're obviously quick. You were looking forward to this, and it's been a clean one so far. So now with this first caution, how do you see the rest of the laps playing out? Do you expect any chaos? Do you expect the same thing that we've been watching all night long, or what do you see out of the front windshield for the next handful of laps or so?
This could easily have a couple more cautions in it just because the field's bunched up for the first time since the first lap. Cold tires are definitely going to be something people have to keep in mind. I know I had to keep myself in check under green there, but when you're in a big old pack like this on the restart, it's going to be very difficult. So it's we'll have to see who can keep the tires under them for that first lap or so, and we'll try to make the best of the situation. It looks like Vizuzzi is the only one who stayed out here, and we're gonna restart alongside him and see if we can try and time this restart as good as we can and stay in front of those on tires.
All right, well, we've got the 1 to green signal, so you should be going green at about lap 100. Francisco, we wish you the best of luck. And, of course, we want you to have fun here at Homestead. I figure you're already having fun with these guys out on track, so wish you the best of luck and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, and it's been fun from my seat at the least.
Well, that's Francisco, our in-race supporter so far here tonight. Currently, we're 1 second. And as he just said, as we got the 1 to green, it's Nicholas Vizuzzi who stays out, continues to remain out on the racetrack. Had another driver also stay out on the racing venue, but they second-guessed, decided to go down for service, so that leaves Vizuzzi as the only one left to get pounced here, possibly on the restart. It's a 6-lap difference in tires between pretty much everybody second on back versus Vizuzzi up at the top of row 1. We'll see how he fares. We've had many instances like this for the ARCA Series race last night. We'll see if for Vizuzzi's case this could help anything moving down the line. It'll be Vizuzzi and Bacalhau your front row, Michael Woolley and Colin Forster your second, Tyler Murray and Lance Hill to P6. Pace car's off, Vizuzzi's underway. We're back under green with 34 laps to go. And it's an easy route to the inside. Everybody in the fresh tires able to walk squarely through. That's the 99 of Forster, able to come up for second. Woolley kind of struggled on that restart as some drivers moved down low. That was Cody Ivey at the exit of turn 2, but we stay green. Bacalhau still your leader. Now Woolley's going to strike to the inside for third, while Forster holds strong for second, and they're still side by side for the last out of the podium. Move down low. Now they're 3 wide for position. Here's Lance Hill piercing through the middle up on Michael Woolley at the exit of turn 2. They're able to keep it straight. Woolley's not able to clear, but Lance Hill in the subway machine strikes through first, and he ends up in third while Colin Forster tries to dive on your race leader. You're right on board with Forster there. Nobody really has really been able to touch the 30 of Bacalhau all night long, but here comes Forster using the high side in 1 and 2. Going to try to use the top seam to his advantage, while Lance Hill has just been trying to plow his way through the field. He's already moved his way up to third, and Woolley finally clears for fourth as one car goes way loose. That's Launsager near the rear of the field. He's going to be able to keep it straight. No yellow. We will stay green. But Launsager almost caused a second caution of the night. He's stuck 3 wide through the middle. Oh, and loose goes Kyle Benson up at the top of the racetrack. What a save it was for the Chevrolet up at the top of the wall. He's going to be able to keep the car collected. There goes Jesse Prees also to fight for the hunt. Well, everybody fans out through the corners. You can see almost 3 wide for many positions on end. Top 5 have already squared themselves straight. It's side by side between Banks and Vizuzzi behind them as Vizuzzi continues to pull the anchor, and he's dropped significantly. Right on board there with the 30 of Bacalhau already on his way. As Forster keeps it within 0.3 of a second. Now going to work the inside. Everybody's going to stay single file once more. And it's all about how you can really manage these restarts. There's Cody Kinsey inside of Brandon Banks for 10th. Not going to have it stick this time. They're still side by side for that spot. Now it's all about what can happen in the final at least 30 laps or so. We're crossing the line for exactly 30 laps to go. So if it's going to stay green, if it's going to maintain like this, these drivers are going to have to start making moves on the 30. Here's the move right here. Pivotal one for the 48 of AJ Green, who's trying to get around Woolley. Seems as though Woolley's better on the long run, but on the short one, he just continues to falter there. And AJ Green going to make the diving crossover to the inside out of turn 2. Come for turn 3 to the inside of the racetrack. This is 4P4. And And Green gonna make the pass quite easy there. Wooly's gonna try to make the crossover happen, but just not gonna have enough room to do so. Neither the momentum. As now the gap maintains, and I think if you're any of these drivers right now, positioning in the long run is going to be key. Saw a couple drivers to the high side, but did burn up their tires as a result. Francisco has not switched lines since the start of this race. He's been tucked all the way to the inside of the racetrack. And it's been everybody else who's in the top side for momentum or the middle side. But Francisco has been able to maintain the most tire underneath his race car via that inside lane, and he has not switched ever since. And he continues to be the fastest one on the racetrack. Was by about a tenth faster right there than your second place driver, Colin Forrester. It's 2/10 back to Lance Hill in lap time that last time by. There goes Michael Woolley now. Here comes Tyler Murray trying to attack by. AJ Green got by Murray for fourth. Now Murray's kind of following through. It seems as though Woolley's already losing a lot of ground to start. Did not have a good restart. As a matter of fact, when we got to lap 100, he's kind of been on the back foot ever since. The driver who was 1 second on the stops, so probably also hope that this race is going to stay green, but with that yellow, it definitely changed the complexion of this race. But it still continues to put himself in the hands of the 30, hoping that it stays inevitable to the end. And as Forrester continues to chase, it's now a question of what he can do in the final laps. Of course, barring any yellow flags, this race is going to stay green. It's going to rely on the long run speed, and we've seen Forrester have some of it. He just hasn't had enough to beat Francisco to the line. He hasn't been able to really set faster laps. The only one that we've seen really set faster times has been the 69 of Woolley. It really hasn't been anyone else so far. And Forrester, he's been rather aggressive the last couple of times by, but just he hasn't been able to really make things work in terms of the tire wear perspective, because as soon as the tires start to wear off, he starts to send it deeper into the corners, continues to maintain aggressive. He just has not been able to find the raw pace to keep himself connected to the race leader, as their gap grew last couple of times by. It was about 3/10 about 10 laps ago. It's now to 5/10, about half a second here, and growing as a matter of fact. Francisco set 2/10 faster that last time around the racetrack. And right now it's all about just the long run pace, and it cripples some drivers here at Homestead. But for Francisco, it has been well done on his end. There's a nice battle for position behind them. That's for P8. That's Austin Bloom, Cody Kinsey to his outside, Brandon Banks, who we saw strike the outside wall. He got the faster pair with the recent yellows, so that did help him in his tracks. Was able to get a clean Hump Day Geico race car. And is now considerably fighting for your top 10 as of this moment. If you want an update right now for the drivers within the Dash for Cash, you're going to have to look so far to the driver of the 8. Tyler Murray continues to lead the group that holds the Dash for Cash qualifying spaces. Cody Kinsey is the driver next to him. And then, of course, you have to look back to Brandon Banks over in the 88 machine, who was the winner in the Dash for Cash qualifier race at Michigan last season. He was able to win that race in his very first start against Justin Mons. He definitely knows what it's like to win under Dash for Cash circumstances. He tries to work for 8th, so it's kind of a spread between most of the drivers that are trying to fight for the Dash for Cash qualifying positions to work over to Kansas in a couple of weeks' time in October. But it's mostly the top 5 spread with drivers that aren't even running for the cash prizes to begin with. The Dash for Cash was an effort by the league to sort of reward the drivers who gave donations for the league, especially to host sessions, to pay for the broadcast, to do a lot of other expenses that the league does overall for the league to operate smoothly. And so they use the Dash for Cash as an effort to repay and, of course, give the incentive to the drivers who work hard to make this league happen each and every week and to help out as well. Also give an extra incentive for drivers to be aggressive, drivers to put on great racing. And so far tonight, we've seen some great racing all across the board. Saw some great racing at Michigan last season, and it has not been a disappointment here from Homestead. And speaking of which, this is really the first time that these drivers race Homestead Miami Speedway. We haven't really seen any 4-wide racing action from this track specifically. Last season did not feature Homestead in any part of the schedule, whether it was the beginning or the end. We did not see this track featured at all. So when the drivers reached over to the ARCA series for the week on Tuesday last night, a lot of these guys were racing this track in this competition for the very first time. For 4Wide Racing series action, this is their first time, their first effort driving around the Homestead Miami Speedway throughout the long runs, throughout the short runs, and of course against all of these guys, which they're accustomed usually to racing each and every week. So in the Cup Series, this is a brand new face for a lot of these guys. A lot of them don't have the experience from ARCA because some of them did not race in that ARCA Series race last night. So some of them don't have the experience from the race to be able to sort of carry it on into here. I assume a lot of these drivers did put in practice laps, but of course it doesn't compare anyway to real life situations or the real race scenarios. As saw the 27 Austin Bloom strike the outside wall, and Cody Kinsey has just gone by Tyler Murray for P6. We saw Kinsey kind of on the back end in the first segment of this race, started within the top 5 and kind of fell through as Murray was on the upswing, went up to the top 5. It's just kind of been stabilized between these two. They've kept their pace and just been able to hold on for a good finish. And Murray, of course, looking for the first spot in the Dash for Cash qualifier to get the incentive come Kansas in late October. And already trying through the top 5. And we'll see if they can kind of scram their way in, if they can get around the guys like Michael Woolley, AJ Green, or even if Tyler Murray can get around the likes of Cody Kinsey. He's very close to him. So in the final 18 or so laps, we could be on our way. But already under 20 laps to go here from Homestead. It's all Bacalhau at the head of the field, and much like it's been all night long, was a little bit concerned about the yellow coming out, like we talked to him about as the in-race reporter, but even though things have paid off, got by Vizzuti on the old tires, and has since now extended the gap to over 1 second. It's 1.3 seconds between himself and the 99 rookie sensation in Colin Forster. Of course, for Bacalhau, this will be first win in 4Wide Racing action here from Homestead. If he can get it done, obviously this is really the only race he plans to run. Maybe considered Nashville later in the season as a possible candidate, but has since stuck to Homestead Miami Speedway as the track that he was definitively gonna run. And with about 15 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line, he'll be inching closer and closer to his first ever 4Wide Racing win. I guess it's the first time we can really say it, that the driver, usually in the booth, ends up on the racetrack and ends up winning the race. And he'll be known, at least cataloged in the 4Wide Racing history books, as a winner here tonight if he can get it done in the final laps. There's a battle right here for P7. That's Tyler Murray. Lost a lot of ground to Cody Kinsey as a result of the long run. And the 88 of Brandon Banks is going to make his way by on the high side, going to clear his way. And Murray's going to fall back to P8 where he started this race on the grid. Not going to be a net gain nor a net loss if he can keep himself straight there. And Tony Kivett's probably going to be the next driver in line if any mistakes come out of the 8 machine. Haven't seen a lot in terms of full tire conservation. A lot of these guys have not been rather clean with their tires. A lot of these guys very aggressive. A lot of great racing. Look at that big dive by the 69 of Woolley. He's trying to pick up from lost ground that he got on that restart. I'm not sure whether the time is going to permit him to even get close to the race leader as of this race. He's going to have to pretty much make a full send, although he is setting 0.2 of a second quicker laps as he goes to the inside of Lance Hill. This is for the third spot of the racetrack, tight to the inside. Not going to be able to make it square. They're going to stay door to door at the exit of turn 4. And Hill just trying to defend all that he can. Woolley trying to attack for all the lost ground. And Woolley this time going to dive to turn 1. He's going to make the pass stick. And for Woolley, it's all about just trying to make these last 13 laps worth it. It may be just too late here for Woolley, because the gap just continues to go through. It's about almost a second to him and the driver of the 99, but then he's almost 2 seconds flat away from Bacalhau at this point. So he's going to need a mistake out of the 30. It's a mistake or some holding up here from lap traffic or really anybody else on the racetrack in order to help Woolley's cause. Woolley has been so strong in the long runs, kind of the show-out driver here tonight. And here he is right there trying to attack on Colin Forster as Forster drifts up out of turn 2, the 22-degree banking. And Woolley just trying to make amends with 12 laps to go. There's the distance covered to Bacalhau. It's a full 2.5 seconds. Bacalhau trying to get through lap traffic. That's Bishop on the inside. That's Eric Schaefer also to the inside. They're going to rob the line away for a moment. Bacalhau's going to work up high. And right up to the outside wall. Really the first time we see him use this line all race long. He's going to try to get around Eric Schaefer with these. He's going to work to the inside. So no hold up at all. And for the 30 car, he's going to clear. Now that's going to make things a lot tougher for these two right here as the 69 continues to hound. Now right up to the back bumper of Forrester. Can he make the move into turn one? He's got a bit of momentum. He's got a bit of the bubble of the air. Gonna dive it in the first corner. He's gonna find his way through the fender and he's gonna make contact. Almost around goes Forrester, but he's able to save it. And we stay green as Willie absolutely bullied his way for second. There's Lance here to the inside. Forrester's gonna lose all the ground. We'll look at AJ Green possibly to make a move. As they're side by side for third. And almost contact there. Lance Hill trying to drift up the track, but Forster says no way. He's going to stick to the middle, and he's going to be defending for third. That was an absolute send into turn one. Willie had the space. Willie put his nose in. Forster tried to pinch. A little bit of a merge by both drivers, and they got collected. That is going to lose Willie a lot of time here with under 10 laps to go. You look at the drama that's happened with Wooly just trying to pick up, and you got to think that would definitely have a lot of space, would definitely had a lot of picked up time on Bacalhau had he not lost it on the restart. But he needs 8 laps to make this happen, either 8 laps or a caution flag to equalize the field, to put them on fresh tires, and to give Wooly at least a shot to win this race. But right now, it is looking rather unlikely. You saw Forrester be able to hold the outside to pinch the 34 of Hill for third. And that also invited AJ Green to the party. So Stock Motorsports occupying second, third, and fourth on the racetrack, looking to sweep the podium. Actually, rather third, fourth, fifth, as I rather say. Michael Woolley's in his second, but still, these drivers are trying to get the most out of it for their team. Stock Motorsports has occupied top 2s, top 3s, race wins. You're trying to accumulate a team effort near the end. But Francisco, who has been consistent all night long, 2/10 slower than Michael Woolley, but the gap may be too large to overcome as he'll come across the line for 6 laps to go from Homestead. A total of 124 laps led. There you can see the bright neon and black Gatorade Chevrolet of Michael Woolley behind him. It's 2/10 to gain. It's now down to 1.8 seconds of a gap. But if it's closer to 2, it continues to gain. It could be worse for wear here for the driver of the 69. As Bacalhau now rounds out of turn 4. This will be 5 laps to go. This time, Woolley working to the inside of lap traffic. Almost about clears himself to turn 1. It's a nice fight between AJ Green and Lance Hill, but that's really the only action you're seeing on the racetrack right now. Bit of mixes throughout the top 7. But it's all the 30 machine. Now looking for 4 laps to go. Gap down to at least 1.5 seconds. There's Michael Woolley in the shot. Well, the time may be indeed running out. This time by, again, 2/10 faster than your race leader. It's just all about whether Woolley can really gain. He's probably going to have to gain a lot more in this instance. Now coming to about 3.5 trips around this Homestead Miami Speedway before this race is all said and done. There's Francisco back down to the bottom, was using the high side of Woolley's again, going to stick to the white line. But for Bacalhau, it's 3 laps to go, this time from Homestead. If he can keep this up, it'll be his first ever 4-wide racing win. in his first and quite possibly only start if he doesn't make one again. And he's led practically every lap. He's only led pretty much but about 7 laps so far. And now rounding out of turn 2, he will come to 2 laps to go, gap down to 1.2 seconds. But as of the last 2 laps, Francisco looking for his first win. And he used the high side in 1 and 2. And he has definitely not looked phased at all throughout the entirety of this race. He has looked calm and collected. Has not been really put into any sort of trouble. He's been easily the most dominant driver all night. But Wooly is trying to close in the gap. Francisco, though, will come out of turn 4 and take the white flag one more time around Homestead. Gap maintains about 1.1 seconds to Wooly. But it looks to be the 30 trying to take away the win. Wooly's going to try and dive it for what might be the final 2 times around the course. But it seems to be no sign that Wooly's going to catch him anytime soon. He's led all but 7 laps. He's dominated this race. He's put all the effort. He's made the first start. And off turn 4, Francisco Bacalhau will get his first 4-wide racing win at his hometown from Homestead. Checkered flag in the air. Bacalhau, your winner. Across the line, Michael Woolley with a show-stopping effort for second as they wrecked for the line. That was Tony Kivet and Jesse Prees. It's Colin Forrester who's able to manage 3rd place after the slight run in there. Going to give a shot to Lance Hill. I don't believe he's happy with Hill at all. Hill's going to finish 4th. AJ Green's going to come home 5th. But as for Bacalhau, gets the celebratory tap from Michael Woolley. Great run for him as a 4-wide racing regular. I'm going to talk to him after this race, but it is all about the 30 of Bacalhau, the winner, and he'll burn it down from Homestead. What a drive it was by the 30 all night long from the pole lap in qualifying to leading the most laps arguably out of anybody tonight. From hitting the marks on the pit stops to holding down on the restart. And Bacalhau is going to, I believe, do the Polish victory lap, trying to drift it as much as he can, do the burnout here as long as he could. There was Michael Woolley there sitting on the track, giving the celebratory efforts to the 30. Bacalhau's going to revert it back across the track, but he is your winner tonight. By an outright margin, it was just about a second between himself and Woolley. Woolley tried to make the effort happen in the final laps, was faster, but the long run just wasn't quite long enough. And Bacalhau is able to celebrate his first ever 4-wide racing victory from the track he calls home. Let's take a look at your full field race results before we get to driver interview section for tonight. It's Francisco Bacalhau, the winner by 0.932 seconds. The most dominant driver in tonight's race, with Michael Woolley coming home in second. A great effort of the driver, the 69, Colin Forster. Slight mistake later on in the last segment. He is able, though, to survive for 3rd. Lance Hill will come home for the Stock Motorsports team in 4th. AJ Green, also for Stock Motorsports, will line up out inside the top 5. So it's 3, 4, 5 for Stock Motorsports. For tonight, Cody Kinsey will have a nice race tonight in 6th. Brandon Banks will happen himself in 7th. It'll be CJ Munier in 8th. 9th will belong to the 7 of Tony Kivet. 10th will belong to the 00 of Jesse Prees. And also to note, because of this finish, it means that Cody Kinsey, I believe, will be the Dash for Cash qualifier, the first driver in for Dash for Cash. It was Tyler Murray for most of the race, but Murray had fallen back, and that gives for Cody Kinsey to be able to qualify for some money. Austin Bloom will come home in 11th with Tyler Murray owning up to 12th. Craig Lonsong, the 13 car, will finish in the 13th position. 14th will belong to the 75 of Nicholas Suzuki, and rounding out the top 15 will be the 56 of Michael Newbraw. Ricky Rosner will come home in P16. Ken MacArthur will revolve behind him in 17th. Eric Schaefer will be 18th, the first car, 1 lap down or more. He'll be 2 laps down with Christopher Bishop on the same page in P19, and it's 11 laps down for the 20th place finisher in the 81 of Cody Ivy. Kyle Benson struggling near the end, finishes 25 laps down in 21st. Pete Bruni, Tyler Werner, and Brandon Gillis, your final drivers in tonight's race. A full field of 24, but the spotlight remains on one driver, and that is, of course, the 30 of Francisco Bacchiao, the first-time winner, first-time racer, and now able to call himself a 4-wide racing victor from Homestead Miami Speedway. We'll bring in the driver and the winner of tonight's race from Homestead, Francisco Bacchiao. And Francisco, we talked to you before the race, we talked to you in the middle of the race, and just like you said at the top of the show, we are talking to you now after the race as the race winner tonight. Your only start so far, your first win, and it seemed as though nothing could phase you on track, and it seemed as though it was a clear and easy route to the checkered flag tonight.
Can you believe it, man? Oh, this feels so great to get this win, man. This means a lot. You know, this racetrack is one that just so much time on here, one that I've been to in real life, one that I've just absolutely loved to drive this racetrack. It's such a good racetrack, both on the real life side and the iRacing side. And this race, it looked a lot easier from the exterior than it was from behind the wheel. That first 95 or so lap run was definitely something I had to work with on that first run. That first run really helped me set myself up for that second run, which I was able to manage. And when that yellow came out, you know, I was hoping that it didn't, but it wasn't the end of the world. Only Vizzuti stayed out there, and fortunately we were able to get by him immediately on that restart. We were able to time it really good. And staying in front of the rest, I kind of used my stuff up a little bit, just trying to make sure that I can try and keep Forrester behind me. He wasn't right on my bumper by any means, but I was just trying to keep him at that dirty air gap. Went a little bit harder than I should have, but in the end, Wooly just ran out of laps, and good job to him. He was the car I was probably paying attention to most of this race. He was second best probably for most of the night. Good job on him being able to come away with that second place finish there. And you know, Kenneth, this really means a lot. I feel that this win is for us as broadcasters, for us as natives of the Miami area, for everyone I know in Miami-Dade County, 305, man, just, you know, this is for all my people and, you know, for all my family that speaks Spanish. Es todo para usted, tú sabes, todo lo mejor que yo puedo haber hecho. I led 130 laps tonight, which is a career high. I've never led this over 100 laps in a race before, but if there's any track that I'd rather do that, it's here.
You know, 4 laps were led without the 30 at the top of the board, and it was under yellow. The first yellow of tonight's race, and pretty much the only yellow tonight to feature out of all 134 laps. But you said it there near the end of the answer to that question, the sort of feeling that it gets to win at a hometown track. And I know it's not real life. I know it's not a real life win, but it's pretty much representative of what a real life win feels like here in the iRacing Sim. How special is this to you to not only win a race, not only to get the win in dominating fashion, but to do it at a place where you've pretty much called home for a long time as a racing venue? You've been to races before. How special is that for you on the Sim tonight?
It means a lot. Like I said previously, it's just this racetrack I've created so many memories at between video games and now iRacing, and of course in real life. I mean, for those that maybe don't know, that's where you and I met. November being 3 years from now, so it's I've created a lot of good memories at this racetrack. Just I every time I think of Homestead Miami Speedway, there's nothing bad I can say about this racetrack. Nothing bad at all. Whether it's the experience at the racetrack, whether how the racetrack races in the real life with all 3 series, whether it's on iRacing the way it is, it's just everything about this racetrack is something I love. And you know, that's why I love it, because it's the only track on the schedule that is exactly the way it is. And sometimes you wish you had more tracks like this, but other times it's better that this is the only track that is this way. And it's moments like this that make you cherish it. You know, I'm definitely can't wait to look back on this race and just see all the other battles out on the racetrack, and just to look over the call, see how everything went from your standpoint, what I would have been doing on the normal side of things. But you know, just really grateful for this opportunity to be able to come out and do this. I hope I get to do it again.
You know what? I think if we're going to trade the headset with the wheel definitely, if you can bring that back, virtual wheel, I think that'd be good for next week's race. But nonetheless, Francisco, a phenomenal effort for, again, 4 laps that weren't led by you on the racetrack. Apart from that, pretty much every green flag action lap was filled with you up at the front of the field by a good amount of margin. But before we let you go, Francisco, I know there's a lot of people you got to thank. So who are those people? Who do you got to give a shout out to? And what else do you want to say for this win here tonight in 4 Wide Racing Cup Series?
Shout out, of course, goes to league owner Tyler Murray. I really appreciate the work him and I were able to put in to make this possible. So thank you, Tyler, for running a great league, for being able to put up such a good race tonight. A clean race, the opposite of what we had last night, just the one caution. Thanks to Dog Racing Enterprises, they've done a lot for me through my career. My iRacing anniversary is coming up in a couple of weeks, so this is definitely a monumental win. I got to thank also KBRN. You guys, we do some good broadcasts there. You and I, you've created that channel almost 2 years ago, which is crazy to think, and it's come a long way. And you guys being on my car as well, I will always be fortunate to have you guys as a sponsor. I also got to thank the main sponsor on the car, Marvel Studios, just my favorite movie franchise, and had the original 6 Avengers on the hood. I had Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Hulk, the Guardians, Thanos, Ant-Man, you name it, they're on the car. Deadpool's even on the car, and he's not even in that universe, not yet anyways, but that's another topic. Thanks to everyone who's helped me get to this point, you being one of them, of course, Kenneth, a lot of people that have helped me get to this point. It's too many to name, so I don't want to bother to make sure no one feels left out if I forget their name. Shout out to my workplace, Aircraft Electric Motor. I'm hoping to have them as a sponsor here in the coming weeks. Been working on a paint. It kind of stalled out there, but Aircraft Electric Motor, great company. We do a lot of good stuff there with the electric motors that go into any aircraft, whether it's commercial or private or little Cessna. Shout out to Flanagan's. Those who don't know, Flanagan's, South Florida eatery. I was hoping to be able to put them on the car ahead of tonight's race, but I didn't exactly have the time to put a sticker anywhere. But I was hoping on putting Flanagan somewhere on the car. Really good food there, great service, and just one more time, I can't stress just how good this racetrack is. I am so happy I was able to get this opportunity to have this race under my belt, and really, I felt like I really could have had a good run. I don't think going into this race I anticipated leading all but 4 laps. That if you told me that before the race tonight, I would have told you, no, that's not going to happen with the field that we have. But somehow we were able to pull it off there, and just all around, it was a good night. I know I've been talking for a long time now. Definitely one of your longer winter interviews, but I know it was definitely worth it. And all things considered, Kenneth, this is the first time you're interviewing me here as a winner, so it's a new experience for both of us.
Yeah, last time I interviewed you for a league race, it was 3rd place at this track, by the way. Bunge Lawn Care Series finale over in the Cable Racing Network. But nonetheless, Francisco, I want to give a big shout out to you for taking the time to talk with us in the booth, and a big congratulations on the win tonight. Usually I would say best of luck in next week's race, but I guess good luck in the booth next week's race, because you'll be back up here instead of behind the wheels. So we'll let you celebrate this one from Homestead. Thank you so much for joining us.
Once again, appreciate the opportunity, Kenneth, and I can't wait to be back in the booth next week to cover some more races from the Michigan Speedway.
That's Francisco Bacchial, the race winner, your 130 laps led en route to his very first 4 Wide Racing Cup win. We'll turn it over to the driver who finishes in 2nd, and what a run it was for the driver, the 69, Michael Woolley, chasing down the leader in the final laps of the race. Not able to get the win, but definitely a run, memorable for sure, from Homestead Miami Speedway. We'll talk now with Michael Woolley from pit road. And Michael, arguably, obviously, it was down to those final at least 15 laps or so. It was a restart. You kind of fell back a little bit, but it was all about the trot back to try and catch up to the race leader in the final laps. Walk us through that perspective as you were trying to get the win.
Well, I mean, that was part of the plan. I wanted to let the younger guys go up in front of me. I pretty much knew they were going to blow off their tires, and I'd be able to get back around them. I didn't, however, think that Colin was going to try to block me so hard. Unfortunately, we did touch. He did end up getting 3rd place still, so I'm glad that he was able to recoup that and come back. And that last second push from Eric Schaefer really put me in a position to try to track him down. I got within, I think, 0.7 seconds at one time there, and I just didn't have enough race left to pull it off, unfortunately.
Well, nonetheless, I think from a standpoint, especially from a spectator standpoint, it looked like other than Francisco, you had a lot of long run pace. It took you a little bit to get it wound up, but as soon as you did, it seemed as though the Gatorade machine, I guess was, you could say, no pun intended, was splashing all over through the field and was able to really gain position. What says about the Homestead Miami Speedway that plays favorable, at least to your driving style or the approach that you carried for tonight's coverage?
Well, a lot of people were having trouble holding it down on the bottom of the track, even the boys over at Rowdy or DBR. And I don't know, I've always ran this track this way, and even with the new tire model and everything, it just worked. All you had to do was just jam it in the corner as hard as you could, about a quarter of brake for about, I'd say, a second, and then just hammer back on it. And that's after your tires got warmed up, and then you were just off to the races.
Well, you were able to get it wound up. You had one of the quickest cars in the field, and I definitely can say that for second place tonight, from the momentum you carry, this is going to be good forward into Michigan. So how do you see this finish here from Homestead? Does that sort of build the momentum for you and your team to try to get things through to Michigan and then continue on and get yourself within a good points, at least in the point standings?
Oh, absolutely. The guys over in Rowdy and Drinking Bros Racing, they're all fast down there, and I expect one of them to get win, if not a podium, next week. And I just want to thank Jesse Priest, Eric Schaefer, CJ Muner, Michael Newbraw, Tony Kivett, Brandon Banks, and Cody Kinsey and Ken MacArthur, all down there with those guys. And it's been a blast racing with them this season over here at Four Wide.
Nonetheless, a fantastic effort to finish second here from Homestead Miami Speedway. Before we let you go, Michael, on this finish, is there anybody else you'd just like to give the love and shout-outs to? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else you just like to give the thanks to?
Sure. SLR Racing, SLR0X on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Rail Racing Online. Of course, Four Wide Racing for putting this on. You guys for recording it and putting it all over the internet for us. And Pointer Motor Supplies, and I have one more, virtual2reality.tv.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time, Michael. I want to give you a big congratulations on the second place finish here from Homestead, and of course, wishing you the best of luck moving forward to Michigan. Know that's going to be a lot of fun. Big track for the first time since, I believe, Auto Club to start the season. So congratulations on this finish. We'll let you celebrate it, and we wish you the best of luck moving to the Irish Hills.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
That's Michael Woolley, comes home second. Best finish here from Homestead in a nice way. Tried to track down the leader in the final lap, so was not able to do so, but still a solid run going into Michigan next week. We'll turn over to the final driver of our segment for driver interviews, and it will be the one who comes home in third. It's the 99 of Colin Forster. Colin, we'll bring you in from pit road here, finishing third from the Homestead Miami Speedway, and obviously, this race lend itself to a lot of green flag runs, which obviously you could say different about the ARCA race last night. So you went from lots of cautions at Homestead last night to pretty much a caution-free affair here tonight in the Cup Series. Walk us through that perspective mentally as a driver, especially through those long runs and the green flag stops.
You just gotta prepare to save your tires when you think you're gonna get on a long run, and I'm not super good at this track with saving tires, so I'm just happy to get a podium finish here. I mean, the tires felt fine, the car felt fine, I was just not fast. I don't know if I just didn't get on the gas quick enough or what, but Michael and Francisco were super fast.
Well, nonetheless, you were able to keep pace, and there were some good battles at some point through the field. You had a nice run with Lance Hill, AJ Green, of course, Woolley, we talked about it later in the race. So how was that sort of fighting drivers at Homestead comparative to, let's say, Chicagoland or maybe a Kentucky or other 1.5-mile venues? What stands out about racing others at this track apart from racing at another intermediate venue?
This track, it's pretty unique. But it's just with the banking, you can like slide up off the corner and it'll like stay where you are, but you can run the top, you can run the bottom here. Well, 3 and 4 you can't really run the top, but some people were making it fast. But this track's just super unique, and I don't like this track, but that's not realistic because high side should be the fastest line, but it's not. But iRacing, I'm sure, is doing their best. I know I don't know anything about it, so can't blame them. It's just hard to figure out, and wish I could run the high side fast.
Nonetheless, it's a solid third place effort. The last step of the podium here from Homestead, and I know we talked about over the past couple of weeks your high average driver finish in the stats, so I'm pretty sure that's going to continue to stay up in the stat sheet. But before we let you go, Colin, on this finish, is there anybody you'd like to give the shout outs to, any sponsors, teams, or just anybody that makes it happen for you?
Shout out to my family. I know they're watching. Shout out to you guys doing the broadcast. Shout out to all my teammates. Shout out to everyone in the league for having me, and that's all.
Well, Colin, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to talk with us up in the booth, and we congratulate you on your third place finish here tonight from Homestead. We wish you the best of luck for yourself and Stock Motorsports moving into Michigan next week.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's Colin Forrester, your third place finisher and the final driver for interviews here from the Homestead Miami Speedway. It was a great night from start to finish. Had a largely green affair apart from one yellow, which had a restart with about 30 laps to go, but that did not phase anyone at all, including the race winner tonight, Francisco Bacquiao, who has led all but 4 to get a win here tonight. His very first win and probably in his only start, so I guess we can call it just a 1-for-1 here, undefeated in terms of racing for Full Wide Racing Cup Series, but nonetheless, fantastic race overall from South Florida. Got a lot more coming up, though, for Full Wide Racing action, and it'll begin next Tuesday night at September 28th at 9:10 p.m. Eastern over on the Cable and Racing Network YouTube channel. We will have coverage of the Full Wide Racing ARCA Series and round number 10 from the virtual Michigan International Speedway on the Legacy track, so we'll have a rougher surface overall, but sure to bring a lot of great racing with those machines and the field in large. The coverage, again, will begin 9:10 p.m. Eastern. You'll find it over on the Cable and Racing Network YouTube channel. That'll be before we go live next Wednesday, September 29th, for more racing from Michigan, the newer version with the Cup Series cars. We'll have that coverage over at 9:10 p.m. Eastern, same time, but at a different place. We'll have it right here on the MaxSpeedTV YouTube channel, so stay posted. We've got a lot of Full Wide Racing action to come from here, and definitely a lot to look forward to. So for everybody at the Full Wide Racing League for making things happen, for league owner Tyler Murray, and everybody at the Race Council for having races each and every week, and apart from all of us at MaxSpeedTV, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Congratulations to Francisco Bacquiao. First race, first win from Homestead. We'll see you next week at the Irish Hills and Brooklyn, Michigan.